Welcome to Sudhir's Photography Tips. As a part of this video series, I'll be teaching you everything you need to know to become a better photographer. So let's start with this. So I had posted this particular image. Look at this beautiful hummingbird from Costa Rica. This is, let me go full screen again. So this is the Talamanca, or also called as the magnificent hummingbird. So this is the end result. So this is how the end final image is. So beautiful. Now I'm going to show you the original image, how it is and what it takes to process and get to this particular image. Let's look at the original image. This is how the original image is. Now, as a part of processing a particular photograph, what I do is steady the image. So if I steady this image, obviously the contrast little bit it is dull, and because the camera could not handle the high dynamic range, so as you can see over here, the details in the underparts are missing. So how do we get back those details? Through post-processing, because that is a limitation of the camera. Let's find out. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to open this image in Camera Raw. So I'm using Adobe Bridge, which is the image management application. Open this image in Camera Raw. I steady the image. Fair enough, I have my own set of steps which I follow. One of the first thing is I use the profile as Adobe Vivid. So Adobe Vivid gives a nice contrast, nice punch, color punch to the image. Now once I do this, I increase the contrast. Okay, so all right. So here when I process this image, I'm going to process two different images, and in post processing, I'm going to merge them. So for me, the first set is basically to get the nice highlights, the backlighting what we have through the wings. So that I want to make it stand out. Okay, so let's do that. So I do the blacks. So when I'm doing that, forget about the rest of the bird. So let's look at only the hummingbird contrast, and fair enough. For this, increase in the vibrance does not matter too much. So I do this, and shadow details, if I want, I can blow it up, but I will not be doing that right away, because here my interest is to get the outline, the backlighting for the wings. So once I have the main outline, I open this image in Photoshop. So I click that image. So let's go to Photoshop. It's a very heavy file, so it's going to take some time to open. Okay, now that we are in Photoshop, again I steady the image, and I'm not going to do any cropping at this point of time. I'm going to show you the complete processing and finally tell you how to crop the image. So once I have the full image, now I steady this, and let me just go to my level correction. Look at the levels, everything looks fine. So for me, the outline what I want, that is cool. I'm done with that. Now I'm going to go back to Adobe Bridge, and again I'm going to open this file. So this time I'm going to process it for the details in the hummingbird. So which means I'm going to increase my exposure. Okay. I want to even show the catch light in the image which is there. So then even increase the contrast a little, and okay, so this is the amount I want, blacks. Okay, so if you see the main hummingbird now, so the overall details what I wanted in the image, that I have got it. I'm going to open that image again in Photoshop. Heavy file, it's going to take time. Okay, now that this is done, so I'm going to overlap this image with the other one. Control A, Control C, Control V. Now on the right side, if I come to the layers, we see that a new layer has been formed. Fair enough. So I use a layer mask. So I'm going to add a new layer mask, and then I'm going to inverse the selection. Of course, all these things what I'm doing in depth, you want to understand, you can always subscribe to our video tutorials. So if I have to show you the link of our video tutorials, let me just minimize all the other screens. So you want to subscribe, visit ssp.photo/video, and you can subscribe to our video tutorials to learn all these things. Let's get back to the lesson. So I invert the selection, and here what I do, I'm now going to zoom in, keep my layers open, and then use the brush selection, increase, decrease the size, and down slowly I'm trying to get the details out of that area. So because I want to show the details underneath, and then I want to reduce the opacity a little so that when I work on the wings, it doesn't stand out too bright. Make a mistake, no issue, I toggle it and X. Opacity, increase the opacity 100% when I'm toggling. Okay, so I'm happy with this. So let's see, use the brush again. Okay, so the main highlights, the way I wanted, that has come out from the underparts. Okay, so reduce the brush size, increase the image size so that you don't miss out on some of the edges. Decrease the brush size, go in over here. Okay, I think pretty happy with this. Again, I would like to toggle, and the edges, it should not show out. Okay, this is pretty good. So now if you look at it, more or less I am there. Now the underpart details, if you see, it is a little overdone. So what I will do now is create another layer and play around with it. Okay, so this is the end result, what I want only for the underparts, the greens. Again, I invert the selection, use the brush tool, and tone it down a little. Okay, so never overdo your processing. Cool. So I'm happy with this particular selection. And also the other thing which I want to do is, if you look at these flowers here, I want to basically again increase the contrast of that. So generally, like, I work one step at a time on a particular area. So I want to make it a little darker like this to make that backlight more impactful. Again, I invert the selection so that it is applicable only to that part. Increase the brush size, and there you go. So just make only that area. Cool. So once this is done, okay, so if you see here on the layers side, so I have created multiple layers to make sure, like, I work targeted adjustment, what we call one at a time. So once this is done, let's look at the full screen. This is the image. I'm happy with this. Of course, I save this as the master file. So I can go ahead, file, save as. Okay, so I'll put it on the desktop for now. That's the master file. So once this is done, now if I have to post this online, especially since I post for Instagram, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically flatten the layer, and I have a crop tool. So in the crop tool, I already have the presets for Instagram story, double spread Instagram, or for that matter, only Instagram. And I'm going to basically crop it as per my taste. So this is what we call as crop for composition. So, all right, this looks pretty good for me. I say okay. So once I do this much, I go ahead and do the sharpening. Sharpening always has to be after resizing, very important. So 100 is good enough with a radius of 0.3. Minus, minus, this is beautiful. So if you see, this is the final image. Of course, you're welcome to put your logo, other thing, text. And then as a final step, what I do is, fair enough, let's bring in the logo. So I go onto my desktop, I have my logo as a separate PNG file, Control A, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to flatten the layer. So once I flatten the layer, I'm going to convert the profile. All this time we have been working in ProPhoto RGB. So from ProPhoto RGB, I get it to sRGB, save it, control it, convert the profile, and then desktop, change the format to JPEG, and here down it shows the tag profile is sRGB, save it at 12, and if you see 1.3 megapixel is the size, and generally anywhere from 1 to 2 MB will give you pretty good image dimension or pretty good quality when you post it on social media. All right, so as you saw, it takes little bit time, but then systematic approach you need to have to see how we want to process the image and post it online. Okay, so hope that helps, and I'm going to be back with a lot more tips in a similar way where it's just not about post processing, but even the story behind the image, equipment settings, camera related settings, some of the advanced settings, be it autofocus metering, or even for that matter white balance. So a lot of these things I'm going to be presenting as a part of this video series. So stay tuned, come back again and wait for the next video. Good luck, and don't forget to sign up for our online photography tutorials where you're going to learn all these things in a very systematic way. So get going with that.